You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Christine Nicholas, the chair of the New York State Tourism Advisory Council, and I would like to call this meeting to order at 11:03. Okay. Just as a reminder for those conferencing in, please place yourselves on mute to eliminate any background noise. Eleanor, I have you over here. And I'd like to say, if you'd like to say something, feel free just to unmute yourself, and we'll have time for new business and for discussion.
And actually, one housekeeping note for people in the room. If you would like to speak in front of you, these are actually microphones that pop up and down. So if you want to speak and are recognized, you just press it and it will pop up and turn green. Now, you actually hit the black button in front of you,
okay.
And then it turns green, and that means you could talk. And then when you're done, put it down red. You will forget. We always do. We'll just remind you. It's just like getting used to back in the old days with conference calls where you had to say, "Hi, this is Ross." So, but you'll get used to it.
So first off, as you may remember, Danny O'Donnell, who chaired the Assembly Committee on Tourism, Parks, Arts, and Sports Development, he retired at the end of 2024. So while we are sad to see Danny go, yes,
I'm trying to connect it to my phone.
I'm sorry.
That's
Okay,
just okay.
we'll keep on going. While we're sad to see Danny go, we are very happy to announce that Assemblymember Ron Kim has been appointed to the new Assembly Chair, meaning he will be the newest ex officio representative of TAC. So we wanted to give him a very warm welcome to the Council. And he is joining us. Hello, Assembly Member. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. Looking forward to it.
All right, and you're welcome to come to our meetings. I know you're all the way in Queens. There is a number 7 line. It works really well. We'd love to see you in person at an upcoming meeting, but welcome, and anything you'd like to say to the TAC?
No, I appreciate the welcoming message. I'm unfortunately still in Albany, but when we do have meetings that when we're not in session, I love to be in person and see everyone there. And I appreciate all the work. And I look forward to promoting New York together.
Terrific, thank you. And our next meeting, I will get into that as a reminder later, but our next meeting, Assembly Member, is in Albany. So we will be able to see you there, I hope. So thank you and welcome. So with that, I am going to first take attendance to those joining via video conference, and I will call the names from the RSVP list that we have here. Let's see. Okay, we have Assembly Member Ron Kim, George and Tim.
If that's George, as in me, from Senator Serrano's office, I am here.
Oh, thanks, George. There is another George and Tim
Okay.
from Marriott. Is he also here?
He's not on yet.
He's not on yet. Okay, Dan Fuller. Okay, we know Barbara Lee Diamondstein Spielvogel is here. Thank you, Barbara Lee. Kelly Blazowski. Not yet. Catherine Nichols.
Good morning.
See you. Hello, Catherine.
Good morning.
David Filipiak.
Hello, I'm right here.
Hi, David.
Hi, Christine.
Any others that I don't see? No.
Tim Stahl is on it.
Oh, Tim Stahl? Okay, very good.
Good morning.
Okay. And then I'm going to just mark Tim Stahl. Okay, I got it. And now for the TAC members in person, I am present, Christine Nicholas.
Eleanor Tatum.
Good, thank you, Eleanor.
Natasha Caputo.
TAC members, Olga. Thank you, Olga.
Mike Oates.
Thank you, Mike. Okay. And then we have great group around the table that I don't want to miss anybody. Okay.
So we'll start on the end, Mark Lee.
Mark Lee.
Marky Wilson, I love New York.
Danae Jones Percept, I love New York.
Great.
Randy Borscheid, Cultural Guide to the Hudson Valley.
Tom Martinelli, Content Studio in New York by rail.
I'm the first one.
Oh, there you go.
Gagliano, I love New York.
Darcy Norfolk from the Olympic Regional Development Authority.
Rhiannon Edlin from I Love New York.
Ross Levi from I Love New York.
Great, thanks, Ross. Is there anybody else that I haven't mentioned? Okay, we have a few that are joining us in a little bit. So all members have been emailed a copy of the minutes, and they're also available on the ESD website. Are there any changes proposed to the minutes by TAC members? I need a motion to approve the minutes. Okay, Olga, motion. I need a second. Mike, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Show of hands, thank you. Okay, very good. The motion moves. Okay. I wanted to start my chair's report by sharing some of the recent tourism-related announcements made by Governor Hochul. At our last TAC meeting, there was some discussion about Amtrak's decision to reduce service between Albany and New York City in order to address rehabilitation efforts on the East River Tunnel, which flooded during Superstorm Sandy in 2012. I'm pleased to announce that shortly after that meeting, thanks to the advocacy of Governor Hochul, State DOT, Amtrak, Empire Service, I'm sure you had something to do with it as well. You're writing, but the service was restored. Hi, welcome. So we're very pleased about that. It makes a huge difference for those of us that have to go to Albany, but for the visitors and tourists alike that want to see our beautiful state. Amtrak has agreed to add additional cars to other Empire Service trains to further mitigate any disruption to the passengers. These measures will be effective through March 2nd, Amtrak will continue to evaluate the service plan, including additional capacity, to see if there are any new possibilities for making improvements. Is there anything that you want to
Well,
add on that?
March 2nd is right around the corner.
Yeah.
So they're going to go right back to, the schedule that they had proposed. So really, it's important for the governor to get involved.
Right.
And, because what ends up happening is, maybe it's Long Island Railroad that would have to, some of the different operators have to, give. So rather than it be disproportionately Amtrak, they can work it out by, distributing the mitigated service. So, but March 2nd is right around the corner, and but it was a great effort.
Great effort.
It was a great effort by the governor. I mean, and all the, the legislators in New York State really rallied behind, and it really sent a real strong statement. So.
But I hear you. We hear you, and we will continue to push. So
Great.
Thank you, and thank you for all your work on this. Before I continue, I just wanted to recognize our guests that arrived. So Julie Coker, thank you so much. We'll be hearing from you in a little while, the new CEO of NYC Tourism, and of course, Kelly Ann Curtin, who's been here before, SVP. Nancy Mamanama, welcome back. I know you've been back here as well. Or is this your first time?
First time meeting.
Oh,
Yeah, we're
okay. I
excited.
thought you were here with Fred once, so welcome. All right, terrific. So we're just starting, and I'm going to give my report, then Ross gives his report, and then we will hear from you. Yeah.
That'll light up green. Perfect.
This is warm, so we're going to stay for a while.
I heard you walked here. Is that the case? Or
did.
you didn't finally give in? Because I did that yesterday. I tried to walk and I saw these yellow cabs that are now all of a sudden available. I think the governor may have had something to do with that, but these yellow cabs are available now. So I was like, why am I doing this?
Great.
Well, getting back to more train news, earlier this month, the governor made an announcement urging monthly ticket holders of Long Island Railroad, Metro North to take advantage of the MTA's winter weekend discount program. This program gives monthly ticket holders the ability to travel with up to two friends, two family members, for just $1 to any station serviced by the LIRR or Metro North trains on Saturdays and Sundays. Winter Weekend expands on the MTA's Summer Saturday discount program and is aimed at making public transit more affordable and more accessible. New Yorkers can take advantage of the $1 fares to travel to a number of exciting destinations like the village of Cold Spring to hike at the Hudson Highlands State Park, the city of Beacon to explore the galleries, antique shops, historic sites, or the village of Montauk to experience a winter beachfront getaway. It can also be used by friends and family to come into New York City to see a Broadway show, visit a museum, or have a night out. This is particularly appealing when paired with a special offer being offered through the New York City Tourism and Conventions like Broadway Week, Restaurant Week, and Hotel Week. I don't want to steal your thunder there. The Winter Weekend Discount Program for monthly ticket holders is expected to run through the end of March, so take advantage of it. Long Island Railroad's stronger year to date, more railroad news, and I didn't do this just because you're here, but earlier this month, the governor announced that 2024 was the strongest year for the LIRR in nearly its 200-year history. The railroad's on-time performance record was nearly 96%, the best in its history, excluding the COVID-19 pandemic years. I don't know, Kelly, you can probably.
Can't lie with
You
the
can?
stats.
They look more crowded than ever.
Yes.
It's a good thing, but,
Very crowded.
Okay, but since 2018, the LIRR has increased the capacity of the railroad with a series of projects, including the new terminal at Grand Central Madison. These projects allowed a service increase of 41%, more than any other time in the railroad's history. The railroad also saw a substantial upswing in customer satisfaction in the biannual customer satisfaction survey conducted in fall of 2024. Overall satisfaction from almost 22,000 respondents reached 76%, a 6-point increase from last spring. So that's really good news, but it shows that we also have some room for improvement, but we're moving in the right direction. The NYSCA grants. In November, Governor Hochul announced over 2,000 grants totaling $62 million by New York State Council on the Arts. These grants will support almost 1,500 nonprofit organizations and over 500 individual artists increasing access to arts funding, and recognizing the substantial impact of New York arts and culture sector. With more than $21 million already awarded as multi-year grants, this funding round brings the fiscal year's total to $84 million. NYSCA's ongoing efforts to ensure greater access to arts funding also resulted in a 20% increase in applications, with 70% of organization support grants awarded to institutions with budgets under $1 million across the state. Many awardees are invaluable tourism assets to New York State, including Bethel Wood Center for the Arts, the Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra Society, and the museum at FIT. A full list of awardees can be found on NYSCA's website. Catherine, do you want to join us or say anything further about this year's round?
No, just really that it continues several years of really favorable financial support for the arts and culture sector in New York. I retired from my role as chair of NYSCA Council last summer, so I don't have more up-to-date information, but it really has been a tremendous commitment over these last years. So we're very, very fortunate in New York.
Yes, and thank you so much for your service there over the many years.
Thank you.
In December, Governor Hochul attended the groundbreaking for the new American LGBTQ+ Museum at its future home at the New York Historical in Manhattan. That is the Historical Society, but they dropped their name, so they have a new name. It's called the Historical. I was confused when I first heard it, too. So I'm like, wait a second.
It's not a typo.
It's not a typo. Okay. The museum's goal is to preserve, investigate, and celebrate the dynamic histories and cultures of the LGBTQ+ community across the country. The celebration marked a significant moment in the museum's development and featured the donation of a brick from the original Stonewall Inn. The concept of the museum is based on a year-long study that engaged thousands of LGBTQ+ people nationwide across as many demographic intersections as possible. After extensive interviews with stakeholders and potential visitors, it was determined that New York City is the most logical choice of location given its cultural context, its historic significance in the LGBTQ+ rights movement, and its popularity as a travel destination. The museum will contain 4,000 square feet of gallery space in addition to shared event and educational spaces, and is projected to bring up to 250,000 visitors a year. It is set to open in 2027 and will be an exciting new destination for I Love New York LGBTQ to promote to visitors. Ross, I know you had a lot to do with this, and I would thank you, and especially knowing that this is a national museum, knowing San Francisco's very important role in this community, but the fact that it's here in New York State, it doesn't go unnoticed, Ross.
Yeah, I don't know how much I had to do with it, but yes, I mean, it is certainly a source of pride for New York and for our community, for the LGBTQ community. I think it is very fitting. I might be biased, but you know, obviously there's history across the nation, but you know, you can't argue New York State's and New York City's role. You know, not a lot of people know we have the oldest continually operating LGBTQ community center in the country, which, by the way, is not in New York City, it's in Albany. We, for years, we had the longest running LGBTQ newspaper in the country, which was in Rochester, had the oldest transgender club in Albany. You know, Stonewall, AIDS, and the response to the AIDS epidemic. It's an amazing history. So I'm very, very, very excited for this to open in a few years. It'll be a great thing for us to promote.
Well, thank you, and congratulations. Now to the State of the State tourism announcements. Last week, the governor delivered her 2025 State of the State address in Albany. Several of her proposals are related to train service again and infrastructure, which could have very beneficial outcomes for tourism. The first is a major investment in Hudson Valley rail service and that would increase capacity, reduce delays, improve safety, and cut potential travel times by up to 15 minutes each way for certain trips, as well as shorten Super Express, Metro North Hudson line trips that would take less than 90 minutes. The proposal includes planning, evaluation, and design for a set of rail infrastructure capital improvements between New York City and Poughkeepsie. Natasha, I'm sure you are very excited about that.
So speaking.
Okay, so speaking, very good. And Poughkeepsie. All right,
Okay,
so around this table, this is, there you go, Mike, I'm sure you. In addition, the MTA will execute a signaling redesign near Yonkers and climate resilience investments in the most vulnerable and highest ridership segments of the Hudson Line. As part of an allocation anticipated to be available for regional investments in the capital plan, the MTA will evaluate and design other potential rail improvements, such as adding a third track to the Metro North Harlem line or connecting Hudson Line service to Penn Station for a one-seat commute to Manhattan's West Side. In partnership with DOT, the MTA will also establish a regional rail working group with New Jersey, Connecticut, and rail partners to promote better coordination on interoperability, ticketing, schedules, and customer interfaces. This group will also develop plans to make travel by Metro North or Long Island Railroad to MetLife Stadium as seamless as possible for the 2026 FIFA World Cup and explore future opportunities for integrated regional travel. I know that NYC Tourism and Conventions, FIFA is a big part of your, your plans for the next few years. So, as part of her proposed $400 million investment in downtown Albany, the governor proposed $150 million to renovate and upgrade the New York State Museum. Improving this anchor family tourism attraction would provide another reason for travelers to visit the capital city. Before I conclude my report, I do want to say that with January, the last time we met last year, congestion pricing was up and down, and we weren't quite sure of the future of it. I do want to give our thanks to the governor for recognizing the negative impact that the original plan would have had on the tourism sector, especially those working in the hospitality industry that would be required to work shifts that their shifts are beyond the schedules of mass transit, many of them. She also, so she took that into consideration. She took the price into consideration. If I can use upon this, this train was already left the station in a way, but she was able to slow it down at great risk. So we appreciate her leadership on this for lowering the price and also for having an open mind to look forward to make sure that this actually is not going to impact the tourism industry. I will be keeping a keen eye out for that, wearing my various hats with the Broadway community, Times Square. But the fact that she had an open mind and was willing to make changes, I think goes a long way, but it is still a work in progress. So you guys can be eyes and ears as well, because we do want the feedback. That is what TAC is for feedback. So we thank you in advance of this and keep us posted. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Ross so we can learn about how you have been so busy these last couple of months and what your plans are moving forward.
We have a busy
Always.
team. In case you may not have noticed, it's winter in New York. And so we've been hard at work reminding folks that, okay, maybe not today, but in general, it's an amazing time to experience New York State. Since our last meeting, we have launched our winter commercial, which highlights outdoor winter adventures such as skiing, and snowboarding, hiking. It's currently running in our target markets, which is our traditional 5-hour drive time markets. And in case you haven't seen it, hopefully you have, but in case you haven't, here it is. We're going to show that to you now.
Are you ready for winter in New York State? Ready for thrills like this? Discoveries like this? Views like this? Are you ready to make memories? Plan the perfect trip or have an impromptu getaway. It's time to explore everything that makes New York easy to love. Discover more at iloveny.com.
So, TV is obviously, and not just TV, but streaming, our broadcast, is an important part of what we do, but it continues across our platform. So, for example, I Love New York's digital team, headed, of course, by Anna Packman, has launched our winter digital campaign that started in November, which is earlier than we typically have started in the past. I was very excited to see something I had been hoping for years and years, which was upon Thanksgiving, we were active promoting winter in New York, which my hope that as people gathered around their turkeys and tables, that they could say, hey, we should plan a trip to New York this winter.
It gave us something else to talk about other than politics.
There you go. That's right. Sure. Every distraction's good, right? And so that aligns with the trip planning trends of our visitors. We know about the look to book period and it matched that. So our winter hub on ilovenewyork.com contains everything travelers may need to plan that winter getaway in New York State, including several winter themed blogs, activity specific tools like our ski areas map, and listings of different seasonal events that are happening all across New York State. I Love New York also launched paid social media ads focused on skiing and other winter activities. And this campaign is the first to utilize a new strategy to target and retarget consumers. So based on their interests, so for example, if somebody's interested in skiing based on their browsing history and stuff, we're able to serve specific I Love New York ads to those targets. We then retargeted users who interact with the first ad by serving them an ad leading to our weekend winter getaways landing page. And then consumers were then further retargeted with an ad for places to stay based on the region that they interacted with. So for example, if they went to our weekends getaway page, which we drove them to after 2 ads, whatever area they clicked on, they were then retargeted with an ad telling them, here are places to stay in that region. And then finally, they were retargeted with an ad encouraging them to sign up for our newsletter so that we could stay in touch with them going forward. So, it's really taking advantage of the unique thing.
It's like stalking to a whole new level.
Friendly.
Targeting.
Is it really stalking if a friend is following you and giving you advice? I don't know,
As a staunch defender of the marketing industry, I always felt that if a brand is giving me information that's relevant to me, I thank them. Skiing, here are more ads for skiing. I prefer that. If I get a catalog in the mail on a topic of my interest, thank you, direct mail marketers, for giving me content that I would like. So yes.
No, it's funny. You get complaints when people are like, why are you bothering me? Unless you give content that people like. And it's like, oh, this is great.
Well, and they say that you have to see an ad 6 times before you actually make a choice to go, so that we're doing our jobs, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and this sort of deeper footprint into the digital world, it just goes, there's tons of data that show TV has a certain role, and when you add digital to the mix, it just, everything accentuates, right? So it's a multiple factor. It's not just adding another channel. It's not just another way to get the message out to a targeted audience, but it also helps us with more metrics to help defend. If someone asks, what are we getting out of all this? The more we do in the digital world, combined with the broader brand messaging, it gives us more of those robust numbers to sort of optimize and continue to go further. And that's why with this winter's media plan, we're able to optimize it. To Ross's point, this is the longest stretch that we're able to start earlier, have it run a little bit later, do more digital, more on the streaming services with the broad. So when you see it, it feels like it is a bigger buy than it actually is.
And so, in addition to the outdoors in winter, which is a core part of what we promote, we do want to remind people that there are lots of great indoor experiences. Great time to go to a museum, great time to experience the arts, spas, et cetera, et cetera. For example, you'll remember from our last meeting that we launched the Discover the Arts in New York State campaign in cooperation with NYSCA, the New York State Council for the Arts. And this included a reimagined arts hub on ilovenewyork.com and a sweepstakes that ran on the I Love New York Instagram page. That sweepstakes ran for 6 weeks and offered contestants free tickets to art destinations around the state, from the Chautauqua Institution to Bethel Woods Center for the Arts. This was the most popular sweepstakes ran on our social media campaign in all of last year. So it's good to know that people care about the arts. Some destinations drew a lot of attention and contest entries, with Storm King Arts Center being a particular standout. And we did paid digital media to continue to support this campaign all the way through the end of January. So we continue to do that arts promotion into winter. Also, our winter promotions includes reaching out to travel journalists, particularly through our winter media night, which was held just shortly after our last TAC meeting held at MoMA, beautiful location, with our partners from the ski areas of New York and Orta. We hosted nearly 30 local tourism partners, as well as state agency partners like state parks, DEC, and the Canal Corporation, who were able to generate story ideas among the over 50 travel journalists in attendance. So that was a great number to have, and the outlets they came from were really terrific as well, included Travel and Leisure, Good Housekeeping, CNN, Cosmopolitan, Afar, and Ski Magazine. Because it was being held at MoMA, the theme was the art of winter in New York, and guests learned about the latest developments in winter travel destinations across the state. We invited our guests to be able to get an exclusive look at some of the museum's latest offerings. So it's pretty incredible to be standing with just like 20 other people in front of Picasso and Matisse and all these other amazing works.
I went back the following weekend, just coincidence, and it was like week before Christmas, Saturday afternoon. It was great, but it was bullcrap.
Yeah.
It was great. So to see that, and then.
Yeah, and as folks know, with our seasonal media nights, we're competing with journalists for their attention, their time, right? They could just go home after work, or they could be going to the 80 other things they were invited to. So our goal is to give them an experience that excites them, that wants them to come. And then while they're there, they get to engage with all those other local tourism promotion agents from around the state, with our state partners, with all kinds of other folks that are there and get to hear with the that's right, with the Order Raccoon. And so, we always try to have that appeal that is going to get them there and get them excited, and we keep getting positive feedback from the press on that. This was our first media night that was coordinated by our new PR firm, MMGY, and particularly given that our staff PR lead, Lisa Soto, is still on leave. I'm counting the days, but there's still a few months, but on maternity leave, and by the way, doing great with her new son. Anyway, MMGY is to be congratulated on putting together a really beautiful and effective event that really, we think, achieved that goal of inspiring travel and travel media to share with their readers and followers all that awaits them in New York State. The winter promotion continues through our segment programs. I Love New York LGBTQ actually is promoting winter this year. We're excited that this is the first year in New York State's history that I am aware of that there's not one, not two, but 3 Pride ski events, winter Pride events happening across New York State. Last year was the inaugural year for the one in the Catskills, which brought together over 150 participants. And this year, New York State Pride Ski Weekend at Bel Air Mountain in the Hudson Valley will feature 3 days of events, both on and off the mountain from February 7th through the 9th. And I Love New York is partnering with ORDA and Ulster County Tourism, as well as the Pride Center of the Capital Region, Big Gay Hudson Valley, and the Hudson Valley LGBTQ plus Community Center. And the event will parts of the event will directly support the work of LGBTQ serving organizations across New York State. So not only will it be a fun time, but we'll actually be doing some community good as well. The very first Adirondack Winter Pride takes place in March, kicking off with a welcome reception at the Lake Placid Conference Center on March 7th. Discounted lift tickets come exclusively with registration and give attendees the chance to ski or snowboard at Whiteface Mountain, explore miles of cross-country ski trails at Mount Van Hoevenberg, and check out the International Bobsled and Skeleton World Champions, which are taking place that same weekend. So even if you're like me and don't get on the slopes, you could actually watch the world-class athletes that do that kind of thing. I'm very good in the lodge. I'm very good at the opera ski. Right. Those are all important roles as well, right? Definitely.
The drink, the outfit, it's the
Yes.
vibe.
And Adirondack Winter Pride will also be hosting an exclusive skating party on Sunday, March 9th. I can skate, so that's good. Hunter Mountain will also be holding a Winter Pride event at its LGBTQ plus ski and ride weekend, which is actually this coming weekend. In addition to skiing and snowboarding, there will be several special events over the weekend to celebrate the LGBTQ plus community and allies. I Love New York LGBTQ will be activating at both New York State Pride ski weekends in the Catskills and at Adirondack Winter Pride. David Turley, our team member who oversees the program, and myself will be at attendance at most of those. Our experiential team will be bringing our suitcase tour. It's a giant rolling suitcase with luggage patches that represent the regions of New York State. And folks will be there. We'll be able to take pictures, get their information. We'll have our map game, which is like a trivia game about where places are in New York State. And so that will allow us to educate folks on great opportunities to see New York State and collect their information so we can stay in touch with them. So we're excited for those events. This weekend is also the Travel and Adventure Show, and I Love New York LGBTQ will be activating at the Javits Center in the LGBTQ pavilion. And so that's the 26th and 27th this coming weekend. And again, educating travelers on destinations across state and gathering their information for future engagement. So that's a lot of our consumer-focused stuff. Now I want to talk about travel trade, both domestic and international. This isn't a look back, this is a look forward. The American Bus Association, ABA Marketplace, is coming up again this year in early February. We will again have a presence. It's taking place in Philadelphia this year. It'll be similar to our activation of the last few years, which was a huge exponential jump from our presence from 3 and 4 years ago, basically. We'll have a booth on the marketplace floor for both ourselves and our New York State tourism partners and representatives. It'll feature a trivia activation to educate buyers on state tourism assets and also be stocked with New York apples for visitors to enjoy. Every state is like giving away things, like Wisconsin gives cheese and stuff. And last year we did apples, and all the exhibitors said, "Oh my God, something healthy. Thank you." So we love that, and so we're going to be doing that again. I Love New York's representatives from Travel Alliance Partnership and Elan Tourism Solutions will be running the booth. I'll be attending the show as well. We basically have an unofficial New York Day, the Monday of ABA, because I Love New York and its regional tourism partners, we host an annual Monday morning breakfast where I give a What's New in New York State presentation to the over 450 tour operators. That they all attend that in the morning, and has become the tradition for a number of years. The National Comedy Center provides a comedian, so folks are able to have breakfast with a laugh and hear about New York State.
Did that one year, right?
Well, that was a video, yeah. But yes, last year was Yakov Smirnoff, actually. So yeah, we've had writers from Seinfeld and all kinds of other folks. It's been great. But so that starts the morning. Then Monday afternoon, Broadway Inbound hosts a luncheon encouraging operators to book trips to Broadway shows. And then that evening, I Love New York hosts a select group of buyers and tourism partners for a reception at the Franklin Institute. So I do a short welcome, and then the attendees have access to much of the Institute and exclusive networking time for our partners and buyers. And then we're especially pleased that for the first time this year, we were able to coordinate with New York City Tourism and Conventions to co-locate their event at ABA in a private room at the Franklin Institute. So we'll both be in the same building. People will be able to attend both. We're able to cross-promote. So, you put together the breakfast, the booth, the lunch, the dinner, and like I said, it's an unofficial New York State Day. The rest of the states can just live with it. So we're excited for it. Looking back for a trade event, the National Tour Association this past November, we activated NTA, which is the second largest group tour and motor coach trade show after ABA. Brings in a different group of operators than ABA and has proven to be a valuable activation for our partners. So we had a booth similar to the ABA activation, one-on-one appointments, 2 dedicated group presentations to approximately 100 qualified operators, as well as a lunch sponsorship there as well. And that lunch presentation allowed us to introduce New York State as a destination to the entire conference and featured, again, a performance courtesy of the National Comedy Center. Our booth activation at NTA was so well received and utilized that it won, as you could see in the picture here, this year's NTA Best Booth Award. So we especially appreciate the partnership of I Love New York's experiential marketing team on this and all their help with our trade show activations. Also in travel trade, we're getting ready for an Australia sales mission. You may remember I talked about at prior meetings that last February I went and did several trade shows over in Australia and New Zealand, including a Brand USA show, Visit USA, IMM Australia, New Zealand. We're returning again this year, not me, but my colleague Heather McElhenney, who oversees our trade work, will be representing us at 7 events in 5 cities over 10 days. That's a lot. I can tell you because I did it. And she'll also be supporting our other partners in attendance, such as New York City Tourism and Conventions and Duchess Tourism, who'll be there as well.
Ross, will you be partnering with the radio station again that gave away the trip to New
Coast
York?
FM, yes. We continue to talk to them.
Yeah.
They were interested in doing something. So yeah, we stay in touch with them to see what we can do.
They gave away a trip to New York, including the city, but it was, it was all over.
Yeah,
it's huge.
And then they broadcast every day.
Right.
A live broadcast.
They made it was great. It just sounds like it really hit with that audience.
Yeah. So yeah, we're continuing to talk to them and see what we can do, and new opportunities as well. Speaking of international, when we discuss our trade work, very often I talk about sort of that in-person work we do, the trade shows we go to, the sales mission we do, but we haven't necessarily highlighted our other marketing efforts, which are actually fairly extensive, all kinds of partnerships, some samples you can see here on the screen. We obviously can't show you everything, but I did want to spend this meeting touching on a few of those larger activations. We sometimes activate campaigns on behalf of all of New York State, so kind of an I Love New York thing. And other campaigns allow us to invite partners to participate through a buy-in, a co-op basically, enhancing and completing the overall New York State story. So for example, we ran a campaign with Waitrose, which is an upscale UK grocery chain that has a popular food and travel magazine. I hadn't heard of Waitrose, but basically think Trader Joe's. They're like the Trader Joe's of the UK. So it's much more than just a grocery store. It's kind of a lifestyle brand, a culture brand kind of thing as well. And so we did a campaign with them that allowed partners to buy in, our local partners here in New York State, and was targeted to the high-end luxury travel that the chain tracks. The campaign was tied to a concurrent tour operator campaign and contest to win a trip to New York State, and drove consumers to learn more about New York State holidays through tour operator travel bag. So this is kind of worked in a way that the consumer could see this at the grocery store, go to their travel agent who had already had a training and had an incentive to sell New York, and say, oh, I heard something about New York State, and then thus complete the trip. Another UK activation is upcoming with an opportunity to wrap 10 electric London taxi cabs with New York State messaging. The campaign will launch at the end of January and will run through early May. You can see here, hot off the presses. My notes say we don't have a sample to show you, but we do, because this literally came through yesterday and shows you what that looks like. Mark Hamilton on I Love New York's creative services team created 10 custom wraps covering each vacation region, except New York City, no offense, because we know you're running your own in market. So we know you've got your cabs covered. Got it covered. That's pretty good. And so you can see, in addition to the outside, there are the 3 matching panels for each taxi. And so each taxi will also include a panel that will tie back to a bookable New York State itinerary with tour operator America As You Like It. So it's not just an awareness campaign, but there will actually be information about booking. So you could be in the cab and book your trip as you ride if you want. Wow. Meanwhile, in the Australia market, we're launching a campaign with Avid, a 3-part activation that includes 3 separate platforms: The Guardian, Boss Hunting, which is a men's lifestyle magazine, and Gourmet Traveler. So 3 different print outlets, print digital, of course. This campaign significantly surpassed the guaranteed delivery targets, achieving over 20,000 article views and over 5 million impressions, which is great. Avid ran a reader study to help us understand the impact of the articles beyond just reads, right? You hear impressions, you hear how many eyeballs saw. But their study showed increased awareness of what New York State has to offer, increased travel consideration, increased desire to seek more information about the state. 65% of respondents, in fact, said they now rank New York State higher as a travel destination, while 46% said they will likely plan a trip to New York State next year. So that's pretty great that half the people that were exposed to the campaign are actually considering the trip. So that's international. Domestically, we are running a paid campaign. We are running a number of paid campaigns across all trade markets. So that includes sports, group, tour, meetings, and conventions. One recent campaign promoted amateur sports venue options for all 11 regions, including what makes each region special and unique to New York State. In addition to space and function needs, sporting event planners look for destinations that their teams and spectators will want to travel to, right? So it's not just about, do you have the facilities, but is this going to be fun, right? Are people going to see, well, I actually want to go there and spend some time in addition to the sports activities I'm doing that will increase their registration and ticket sales. So our campaign, amplified through social media, highlighted how New York State will meet and exceed both the logistical needs of their events and the interest of potential participants and their friends and families.
We'll stop here, just waiting for a northbound train to clear the single track. I think we're getting some background. Oh, okay. We go.
Group tour is arguably one of our most active domestic segments, and we worked with a travel trade publications on an advertorial highlighting what is new and special for groups in each of New York's regions. The publication will be giving the magazine away at major trade shows like ABA at NTA, and we will be making it available in our booth as well. So at ABA, people will get this publication whether they go to the publications booth, our booth. It's a great opportunity for exposure. And the feature takes another step in making New York State a more turnkey operation for busy motor coach tour operators. That's what they express to us all the time. The easier you can make it for them to offer a trip and just get people and sell the trip, the happier they are. So we're going to continue to utilize this piece in our future considerations and conversations, and follow up with group tour planners and operators. And the usefulness of this piece will last well beyond the publication timeframe. We basically get to hold the publication and use it going forward as a tool to hand to an operator. It basically shows them the tour. They just have to reprint, book, and sell. I Love New York has been capitalizing on the opportunity to bring New York State partners together to meet international guests coming on hosted familiarization tours. So in other words, we're hosting the tour operators and travel journalists from overseas to come and experience New York State. There's no way they can see all the state by any means. Generally, they're focused on particular geographic regions. But what this allows us to do is to bring TPA partners who aren't necessarily on the tour to meet with those folks either at the end or the beginning of that tour. Danae Jones-Persip, who's here on our team, helped I Love New York host 2 of these FAMs just this month, one for trade reps from Germany, the UK, and Canada, and one with journalists from Canada and Germany. Both groups visited Sullivan Catskills and Lake Placid to experience winter in New York State. That was the theme. Highlights included visiting a working ranch, exploring the newly renovated Olympic Museum, and skiing in the Catskills and the Adirondacks. And thanks to the overlap of those two, one was ending, like the travel trade was ending just as the media was beginning, we were able to host one B2B reception at the TWA Hotel. 4 local New York State partners traveled in from around the state for the reception, where we had networking and partner presentations and a dinner. I was able to attend as well, along with the I Love New York travel trade team. So it was a great opportunity to see those folks. We have more sales missions coming up, most notably Canada. I Love New York will host its first sales mission since 2018 in Canada. And I will be leading a delegation of New Yorkers to Montreal, Toronto, and Burlington, Ontario. We will have 2 separate press events in Montreal and Toronto, and the trade events will feature a comedian. Thanks again. That's kind of our brand now with the National Comedy Center. One-on-one sales conversations and lots of networking. So that's our trade work. And then just the last thing I wanted to touch on was to mention that I Love New York has been very busy. It's been a very busy period with our state and national trade groups. Later this week, for example, along with a number of TAC members here, I will be participating in the quarterly meeting of the DMOs of New York State and the annual board retreat of the New York State Tourism Industry Association, NYSTIA, we all know and love, both taking place here in New York City. So that will be very busy over the next couple of days. I was also pleased in December that for the first time I was able to attend the National Coalition of State Tourism Directors Leadership Forum. So this is the Ross of California and blah, 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 meeting and getting together, which they do once a year just as an exclusive group. They also get together at like ESDO and other events, but this is a time just for us to get together. It's coordinated by U.S. Travel Association, and this year was held in Asheville, North Carolina. And so in addition to the leadership development we were able to do, hearing best practices, asking questions from colleagues, hear how they're dealing with things, it was actually really rewarding to be able to do a little community service there. Actually worked at a clothing bank. And more importantly, just moving around town in the hotel and the restaurants and the shops we were in, the number of people that just thanked you. What a great community and how strongly it's rebounding, and really just re-emphasized there's no people like tourism people, like, hospitality folks. They care about their communities, they care about their work. So it was a really great opportunity. We had time with the USA Travel Association staff, including the fairly new, I consider new, President and CEO Jeff Friedman. He came, was with us for a whole afternoon. It was great to be able to hear from him. And so it was a really great opportunity. I was glad to be able to do it.
Ross, was the destination picked before the hurricane, or was it in response?
No, it was. It was picked before, and then
wow.
somewhere around September, well, I guess the floods happened in October.
October,
right?
yeah.
We got a note saying, don't book yet if you haven't. We're seeing what we can do. There was some consideration about whether they would have the infrastructure to hold it and talked about moving it. As you can imagine, Asheville begged, please, please, please don't. Please come.
Okay.
And so we did, and it was amazing. It was great. It was great to be able to do it.
Wow.
And then lastly, I was also honored to attend the annual gala of New York City Tourism and Conventions. They're always glamorous and fun events, and it is. It really is. How they're able to balance a classy event to not be stuffy is very hard to do, but they managed to do it. It's a fundraiser for the New York City Tourism Foundation, which provides grants to arts and cultural organizations that contribute to the diversity and dynamism of the 5 boroughs. So congratulations to Kelly and Julie and Nancy and the whole New York City tourism team on another wonderful event. It was great to be there with you. So that includes the overview of our work.
Excellent. Any questions for Ross?
Slacker.
It's a tough crowd. Who let Mike on the board?
No, it's good. It's good.
I know.
Christine?
Yes.
Hey, maybe now would be a good time just for the comment we had discussed.
Sure.
And thanks to Ross for the update on the trade mission to Canada. Being a dual citizen, I spend time in both countries, and I think it's important to note there's some risk to our Canadian visitors right now. And a couple of things I thought we should keep in mind, and maybe there's some room for discussion. The primary concern is economic, with the dollar yesterday at $1.43 Canadian to the US dollar. That in itself is going to make travel to the US challenging for Canadians. However, it's still a car ride for 15 million, roughly, visitors to New York State, and much closer than Europe. The maritime provinces are Western Canada. So I think with that in mind, it's always worthy of keeping this dialogue going. But it's also kind of no secret that the president has been threatening 25% tariffs on Canada. This is a very emotional subject for Canadians. And may reasonably have some impact on the tourism industry. So I think this dialogue and outreach and this trade mission is really important, but also something for us to keep in mind. New York State is a good neighbor. It's very welcoming. And it's this time as an opportunity to reach this audience with messages of friendship and welcome. It's not just a border we share, it is a long friendship. So I think an opportunity for special packages for Canadians in certain regions. I think of cultural organizations partnering across the border with one another being an opportunity, but certainly throughout our sector, I think that's something for us all to keep in mind. And really that was it, the comment that I wanted to make. And of course, go Bills.
Yeah, I obviously I think Canada is an incredibly important market for us. It's why it is one of only 4 international markets in which we have a rep, a trade rep. Our PR firm does Canada in addition to domestic. Also true with our coordinated marketing firm. You did mention the sales mission. Our PR work just last night. Danae and I, along with MMGY, were at an event we co-sponsored with Map Happy for Black journalists, travel journalists, and those interested in Black travel who are here for IMM. And we held a co-sponsored reception. And I was talking to some of the folks from Canada and asking them about this specifically. Now, that's a focus group of 3, but the 3 journalists, content creators I was talking about told me that from their perspective, Canadians do and can and will make a distinction between federal and, for example, a friendly state. So, I would think depending what we want to do, there may be market research to talk about, what sort of impact those messages would have. But there's certainly, I think, it certainly can't hurt to continue making that message that New York State has been a welcoming place for all kinds of people for a long time. When I was in Germany as well for the NFL event, remember that was literally days after the election. I left the day after the election. And I was also sort of taking the temperature there, and was able to remind folks that while there might be a perception overseas, that the same night that something that they were concerned about happened in the election of the president was also the same night that New York State passed an Equal Rights Amendment into our Constitution that wrote in choice, that wrote in protection for LGBTQ New Yorkers. And so to let folks know that New York State has been a welcoming place for a long time, that hasn't changed. So I think finding opportunities to have that message will continue to be important.
It's always been an important market for us, but it's unique that it's international, yet it's still a drive market. So we sort of treat it not just from a paid media standpoint, but from outreach and PR as a drive market, but it has international ramifications also. So it's not, there's a border there, it's relatively easy to cross. So I think between those sort of the continued outreach from an industry standpoint, the continued PR, trying to get the word out that we are friendly, and then the paid advertising about targeting messages to them to come over for the day, for the weekend, or for whatever the case is. All that is things we've always done, but I think we should continue to do more of that and keep a closer eye on it, do some research, like Ross said, and just understand what we can do as much as possible to keep that market one of our key markets.
Ross, I had a comment from what you were just saying. It's glad to hear your thinking along that lines. It reminds me of back in 2016 when back then NYC and Company with the 2016 when there was the Muslim country ban, and NYC and Company specifically changed their marketing message to the all is welcome to separate the city from the rhetoric that was coming from the country. So like you said, and I thought it was very effective back then, that New York City has a different welcoming message than the country. So perhaps we use that as a bit of a case study. You already said you are the messaging that New York State for the Canadian tourists is a different message than what they might be hearing from the country overall.
Well, Catherine, thank you for raising it, especially it's very timely considering that, we are headed on this mission March 10th through the 13th. So we appreciate it. And anything else you hear, please keep us posted. I'm going to shift now to introduce our guest, one of our guests. You may remember in May, Fred Dixon joined us. May is, of course, Tourism Month. So this was prior to his departure for Brand USA. And Fred gave us an update on what NYC Tourism and Conventions, what they were up to for Tourism Week and beyond. We've had a very good relationship with NYC Tourism, especially under Fred's leadership. Back in the day, before my time and Ross's time, there was a bit of a frosty relationship between I Love New York and NYC and Company, or NYC. It was just a traditional, and we came together, especially my role of being former CEO of NYC and Company, Natasha also being vice president there. Tim Zagat, who was the chair I succeeded Tim Zagat. He was also the chair of NYC and Company. So I think we've really come a really long way of bringing these two organizations to work closely together. You just heard from Ross on everything that I Love New York is doing in the international market. That was not the case 20 years ago. I Love New York basically just stayed in New York, and they did not have budget for overseas travel, overseas marketing. And, we've really come a long way in that regard, but, closely with New York City. So a lot of these efforts that we're doing, you hear Ross say that, we're in the same building as you, so we're coordinating. And so Julie comes now as Fred's successor. Julie Coker has a very long, successful career in the travel and tourism world, beginning in Philadelphia. And I noticed ABA, well, you started in Philadelphia. ABA, of course, is having their big convention in Philadelphia. you probably had something along the lines to do that. You hosted the Philadelphia DNC convention, which was a true success. And on days like this, when it's 0 degrees, I do wonder how you moved from your latest visit from San Diego to New York. And that really shows a true, I mean, you gotta love New York a lot to leave San Diego, but we are so happy that you're here. We're wishing you exactly continued success. And we appreciate your spending some time with us to, so we can welcome you, but you can also inform us on how's it going.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Christine and Ross and Rich. Thank you for having me here. It's great to see everyone on screen and in person. And yes, I get that question all the time. Why would you look to move in December to the East Coast? I like to say San Diego was 4 years out of a 30-plus year career. So I've never really lived anywhere warm except for San Diego. So you quickly adjust, I will tell you, to flip-flops at Thanksgiving, but you also quickly adjust. And yes, I have fleece leggings under this skirt. So it came back to me real fast how this whole thing works. But I grew up in Wilmington, Delaware, and then college in Providence, and then spent 20 years with Hyatt Hotels all in the Midwest, so Chicago, Columbus, Cincinnati, and then had the opportunity to come back to the East Coast in Philadelphia, and then was fortunate for 4 years to live in San Diego in 300 plus days of sunshine, and certainly now just a wonderful, timely, I would say, opportunity to come to New York. Fred and I became very good friends when I was president and CEO in Philadelphia. He and Elliot and I would talk about there really wasn't any other city or state on the East Coast that was more important than the three of us. And we wouldn't say that to our friends, but we would. And so when this opportunity won for him, we should all be very grateful that Fred is in the role that he's in. I had the opportunity to be on the search committee for U.S. travel, and certainly it was no secret that they were courting Fred heavily for that. But I will tell you, Fred is in the best role possible right now. And having the foundation of New York City to now be the DMO for the country, we as the United States have no better representation than Fred Dixon in D.C. And so we will benefit from his 18 plus years of being here. But more importantly, our country will benefit from his expertise in growing international visitation to the United States. So I'm thrilled that we're in great hands, and I'm thrilled that Jeff made it to Asheville, because that also shows his commitment to the importance of the state DMOs. And I know that he was excited to be there. So that was great. I'll start where Christine left off, and that was with partnerships. And I had a great relationship with our Pennsylvania tourism folks. Actually, Michael still sends me cakes every year, even though I was in San Diego. So we had a great relationship and served in that capacity under two governors. And so I can understand that oftentimes it can get a little tense between our governors and mayors of the state and city. But more importantly, what's most important is the work that we do. And that transcends politics any and every day. So had a great relationship there, and then worked very closely with Carolyn Batetta in Visit California, and served as their vice chair there. And certainly there was a lot of talk about Visit California's focus was on San Francisco and LA. And very quickly, the next commercial they did was around San Diego. Yeah. So know how to build bridges and certainly maintain relationships. And quite honestly, at this age and this point in my career, I'm not looking to fight. I'm looking to just book business and certainly keep our folks working. So our focus and my focus coming to New York City is it's a well-oiled machine. And so I don't have to step into a role where the staff isn't seasoned and we haven't done great work. We are. And what we are challenged with as a team, myself and Kelly and Nancy are, and certainly all of the other talented folks that are back at the office and working from home, is maintaining our competitiveness. And that's top of mind for us. And the reason why I start with competitiveness is we're saying the same thing at US Travel and also Brand USA, that the United States needs to be competitive, because in those same international markets, they have lots of choices. And I think it was someone who talked about the cost and the increase, obviously, of the dollar right now. And so there's lots of other choices across the globe that visitors have, as compared to New York City and certainly New York State. So how we maintain our competitiveness, not only as a city, but also as a state and really as a region, East Coast, because I can tell you, California and Phoenix and Vegas, or really Nevada, are coming really hard and fast with dollars. And they too want to keep folks on the west part of the country. And then, of course, hopefully Chicago will name their CEO soon, and they're going to get their act together, and they're going to come after the same tourists and visitors that we're looking for well. So competitiveness is extremely important for us. Also, too, our priority is maintaining the staff that we have. We have very talented folks, and they're doing a great job. So we want to make sure that we have the right culture. I think we have made a much needed improvement moving to Rockefeller Center. So folks love the fact that they're coming into the office. They weren't as excited around the tree after it was lit and all of the folks came around and you couldn't get Uber Eats. But we're making those small adjustments in the space to make sure that we are being culturally relevant and that we are leaning into the diversity of our staff and also to the members that we serve. And that all starts from the internal outside. So we want to make sure that our team is well equipped with the tools that they need, but also to make sure that we have the environment for them to thrive and grow. And then the last piece is certainly the product, right? So we have a lot of outstanding and award-winning attractions, museums, hotels. We have, as you all know, a number of hotels that are transitioning from housing the unsheltered to coming back online. So obviously that puts inventory back into the marketplace for us. A number of our hotels, small and large and independent and brand, have done amazing investments in their product, which is extremely important because, again, that goes back to the competitiveness. And then, of course, all of the great restaurants that we have. So all of that bodes well for what we think will be a great 2025. We're starting to shift a little bit away from comparing ourselves to pre-COVID to really year over year, right? We're, in all intents and purposes, we're back. And so how do we look at that competitiveness year over year and not necessarily pre-2019? And New York City and New York State are the ones to be able to lead that effort, because we really are the only city, and I dare say state, that can boast that. Coming from California, yes, they're doing extremely well, but not all of their major metropolitan cities are doing as well as New York City is. So they certainly have a ways to go, and they too are leaning into their drive market and also international. So those are the things that we're focused on. I'll finish where I started in terms of competitiveness for us equates to funding. That's really where it comes down to. And it's certainly no secret that New York City's funding has been stagnant since New York and Company was created. So that $21 million investment that was made back then has really continued through the last couple of years. But for a variety of reasons, we are looking at a dip in our revenue this year, fiscal year 25. And right now, that sets the stage, because as we all know, there's never the level setting. So we don't go back to where we were, even though there's a contract in place. But we are concerned about our funding for fiscal year 2026. So we are leaning very heavily into the legacy work that we have always done that has moved the needle, both from a meetings and convention to a international to a domestic leisure standpoint, and also to leaning into what happens if we aren't able to continue to do the work that we've done that really drives New York City and obviously benefits the state as well. So we're looking into that. But then we're also looking into the fact that our budget has not been competitive to, I'll say, cities like Vegas and Orlando. I had a larger budget in Philadelphia than we have here in New York City, with only 17,000 rooms, and we have over 122,000. So the math just doesn't math, right? And for us to do the best work and continue to drive economic impact to the city, therefore the state, and also employ the close to 400,000, Rich doesn't like us to round up, but I will, 400,000 workers that depend on the work that we do, we have to have dedicated funding. So you'll hear a lot more from us about what that looks like and certainly the support that we would need to make that happen. We know that there are a lot of demands on the city budget and state budget, but we also have to make sure that this is an investment because there is a return on investment on the work that we do as opposed to an expense line. So those are the things that we are looking at. I don't want to gloss over 2024 amazing results. Certainly a winter season or a holiday season that we only could pray for. It was absolutely fantastic. The weather held up. So if anything, I would rather have this cold right now than in December, because obviously that could have impacted those that came to visit us. But we had a great holiday season and we're off to a good start for 2025, but we know that we need to remain competitive and that we've got some really big shoes to fill. Many of our hotels and restaurants and attractions in this city lead their company's revenues. So how goes New York City's product is how some companies go. And so we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, making the right investments, and obviously that requires dedicated and sustainable funding. So, and we're up for the task. We're ready to do this. So thanks so much for having us. We look forward to the partnership. Certainly the work that you've done is absolutely amazing, and I agree. You are very busy and love it. Love all the work that we can do, and obviously we want to continue to be a great partner. So we look forward to the partnership.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I wish you luck, Jenny.
Thank you.
Welcome officially. We welcomed you at the gala.
Yes.
Now in a TAC meeting in our office.
That's
Welcome
right.
once again.
Who gets to start their first day with a gala? It's
Exactly.
awesome.
Thank you. We are now going to move from New York City to upstate. So I do know if you have to get back to New York City, but you're welcome to stay because we have two great guests. And, Olympic Regional Development Authority, which we call ORDA here in New York State, that's the group that created the Olympics back in Lake Placid, and it remains today. It's a very powerful group that oversees a lot of our ski areas. We work very closely with them, especially when we are promoting New York State, not only to skiers and sports enthusiasts, but to historians now and all over the world. Lake Placid has just been such an amazing experience, and it lives on. It shows you, and hopefully our medals are not rusting. I don't know if you saw the most expensive medals are rusting from Paris, but we also have a board member here on TAC, Eleanor Tatum, who is also a board member on ORDA. So I'm going to leave it to Eleanor to introduce Ashley and Darcy. I know Darcy, Ashley's on the phone, right?
She's right there. Yep.
Oh, she's on. All right, terrific, excellent. Eleanor?
All right, thank you so much. So I've been a board member of ORDA for several years now. I can't even remember how many years now, but it's a few. And Ashley Walden, who's our new president and CEO of ORDA, she's been with us just almost a year now, right, Ashley? Yeah. After she has taken over the reins after a very long-term president and CEO, and she's been doing a phenomenal job. And Darcy Nofork is our director of communications. And ORDA oversees three ski mountains, which is Bel Air, which is the closest to us, then Gore, and then Whiteface. Then the Olympic jumping complex, Mount Van Hovenberg, which is our sledding complex and our cross-country complex, the Olympic skating oval, the skating rinks, the 1980 rink, and the Olympic Museum. Did I miss anything?
It's all there.
It's all in there, but it's an amazing organization. They do a lot. They host their own events. They also have the facility used for events from all over the world. And I will turn it over to you guys now.
Thanks, Eleanor.
All right. Thanks, Ellie. Appreciate the introduction. And I'm going to very shortly hand it over to Darcy, who's there in the room, and will be able to to give more detail here, but I just wanted to first of all thank the opportunity. Thank you to the Tourism Advisory Council and to ESD for the opportunity to present and talk a little bit more about what we do and where we're really headed. We're really focused on the future. We are a legacy organization, so the Olympic Authority was created after the 1980 Games in Lake Placid to protect and to manage the Olympic venues. So since then, the portfolio of venues has grown. As Ellie mentioned, we do now have 2 additional ski resorts, so Bel Air and Gore Mountain, and even an Olympic museum and a conference center. So the portfolio is quite wide. And there's been a number of investments and modernizations from New York State that have really led us to where we are now and will take us really far into the future. Just a couple of highlights and data points. So we currently receive requests several a day for people to host events at our facilities. And outside of events, we obviously have daily operations that we run. Looking back at the fiscal year, our admissions and our visitation is up over 16%. And we've seen tremendous amount of growth in our year-round operations. So we do more offerings for summer and fall time. And then our skier base really was rejuvenated during COVID, and coming out of that growth has continued. This is the first year that we have surpassed 30,000 season pass holders, which is tremendous. And we haven't always had the best of weather, but through smart investments, we are able to continue to offer opportunities at those 3 different ski resorts that are in 3 totally different regions of New York State. So we're really excited about the future. And just to give you a little bit of a better feel and look at what we do, I believe Darcy has a video for us.
Ashley, I'll take over from here. Hi, everyone. So that just gave you a little taste of the experiences coming out of our venues spread all over the 3 regions, as Ashley mentioned. Obviously, as you know, 1932 was actually the first time we hosted.
Yeah, what's up? You can come in.
Oh, we hosted the Olympics, and believe it or not, that is 7 years away from a 100-year anniversary. I know, so we have a lot of planning to do. But actually this year, and in a couple of weeks, we celebrate the 45th anniversary of the 1980 Games. And so 1980 really put Lake Placid on the destination map. And so we've been obviously in the sports world for some time, and our future is very bright, as Ashley mentioned. So thanks to the state, New York State, and the capital investment that has gone into our facilities that is generational, we have a big, bold future ahead of us. And so We're already, progressing rapidly. We're in demand, but we have a lot more to come. And so I'm going to kind of go through that a little bit. Oh, I forgot I was in control. Yeah. We kind of touched on this already, but these are just glimpses of the logos, of course, but obviously the venues, the 3 ski resorts, as well as legacy venues, which include Whiteface. But we also now have a new headquarters for all of our functional departments that support our venues, which is the bottom left. And there are 2 Olympic training centers in the United States, of which one is in Lake Placid. And then the Lake Placid Olympic Museum, which is also brand new over the past couple of years. And the great asset that was completed in the 1930s, we still oversee, and it's a great tourism attractor every year, which is the Whiteface Veterans Memorial Highway. So the only mountain in New York State that you can actually drive to the top and have a tremendous view. But behind these venues and behind these walls is over 1,500 staff, to be honest. So full-time, part-time, and seasonal. So we have a set of professionals that are supporting these venues across New York State. And this ranges from retail to snowmakers, to attraction operators, track management, broadcast capability. We have basically a built-in events department that we facilitate, major events down to facilitating youth hockey tournaments. And so we have a tremendous team of professionals that is versed in all things tourism and events, and that is just part of our ecosystem. So today's Olympic Authority is year-round, and that is probably the biggest change with the investment in our facilities. And so the one-of-a-kind attractions, as we've mentioned, the events and activities range from smaller events and conferences to major events, World Cups and championships, ski lessons, athlete development. That's a picture of biathlon down there in the bottom right, training at our facility, whether it's outdoor recreation, climbing up Mount Van Hoevenberg, or obviously skiing and riding in our mountains. We do provide a year-round experience across all of these facilities. And I will say, in particular with Lake Placid, climate change has actually become part of our conversation. And so when guests are looking to go on a ski vacation, they hope to be on snow. But if there's rain and inclement weather, we do provide so many other options so that they can have a great winter vacation. So we've seen curling take off. We sell out routinely in terms of indoor curling, skating, stick and puck. And then with our upgraded refrigeration, we can continue to offer skating outside depending on those conditions. So, but we're not done yet. So as much as we've had generational investment, we still have major projects, of which one to help meet the growing capacity at Bel Air, which is our strongest guest experience in skiing and riding. Discovery Lodge is under construction, and we have a new project this Friday. Actually, we will celebrate the opening of the new Hudson Chair in North Creek. That is one of 3 projects basically there on the 4th peak, which will include a new lodge as well as a unique attractor, which is going to be a zip coaster. And so these are in works as well to help us continue to do what we do and drive economic impact.
I just wanted to add that Bel Air just celebrated their
75th anniversary. Yes. Yep. So from a major events, we've touched on this a little bit. We're about halfway through this schedule here, but we did just, the last scene that you saw on the video was the freestyle aerials competition, where we had just over 5,000 spectators, as well as athletes, partners, et cetera, at that event over Saturday and Sunday. And then starting tomorrow, we have a North American Cup at the sliding track, and then it keeps going. And as mentioned, we have 3 World Cups and championships, but we also have the biggest one under an Olympics event, which is the Bobsled and Skeleton World Championships. And so that is coming up mid-March, and it's 2 particular weekends, of which one is the Pride weekend, as it was mentioned, as well as a number of other events. And looking forward, we are in demand, and so we already have booked out a number of big events for the future. And kind of woven into all of this is, Eastern Cups in Alpine, Gore, Bel Air. We host a number of ski competitions, the youth hockey tournaments, as I mentioned. So these are just the major events, but it's we're a well-oiled machine and continuing to pump out events on a daily basis. So one big event that I thought I would touch on that you've probably all heard about to some degree is the potential for us to host the sledding events in 2026. And so we are in targeted dialogue with Milano Cortina regarding this. We were selected to continue the conversation with them. We have not yet ascertained a definitive answer on when this potentially could be activated or not, and when they will notify us, but that is the biggest conversation that we're having at the moment. And so this is about a 1.5 year old process, to be honest, and it's something that, as you know, the Olympics has provided Lake Placid an incredible legacy. This would be our 3rd time hosting an Olympics, which is similar to Italy. This would be their 3rd time. The track was actually, the bobsled and skeleton and luge track, which would host this, as I mentioned, is hosting World Championships. But as part of the investment by New York State, the lodge that you're seeing in the bottom right is about a 30,000 square foot facility where the Nordic Center is on the left and the track is on the right. And this facility is really a key component of being in demand in sporting events. So it really has all the functional spaces, food and beverage. It has an indoor push track. It now actually has a climbing center. And so it really has all of the pieces. In addition, part of the upgrade was to the broadcast component. And that's a large piece of why we also hosted the UCI Mountain Biking World Series there this past September. But another key component of that bid, obviously all the competition will be taking place in Lake Placid, but is the insertion of also having our celebration center in New York City. And so we've been working closely with Rockefeller Center, as well as New York City Tourism. Natalie and Chris have been great. Key partners, EDC, now NBC. And so we're working towards having, in February of 2026, potentially, even if not activated, a large celebration center in Rockefeller. We'll have viewing locations as well as, learning about the sports, athletes. But if we are activated, the medal ceremonies will be on the ice at Rockefeller. And obviously that will be part of a IOC initiative, obviously on the ice. But so what we're doing is we're bridging Lake Placid in New York City in a greater way. So the distance actually from the major cities in Italy for the Olympics is about 5 hours. And so you can see where kind of this regional approach to Olympics is going. And so this right here is just an example of kind of bridging our 2 cities with all the key advantages of an Olympic legacy, obviously a competitive track, but also bringing the economic powerhouse, the 3rd largest Italian-American population in the world is New York City, and bringing these components together to really have a really special event. And so we're hopeful that potentially we'll be activated, but if not, we look forward to greater partnerships. And one of the initiatives too that we're also been doing is really trying to, any athlete that comes to Lake Placid, they always think that they're pretty close to New York City, which they're relatively not, but there's still an opportunity for them to come here and have that experience. And so for the UCI Mountain Biking World Series, we offer delegate passes through New York City Tourism. And so obviously they get some promotional activities and feel special, and also the opportunity for them to, on their social channels, spread the wealth in terms of where they are and what they're doing here. And again, that influencer type of tourism marketing. Yes.
Question.
Yes.
I know there was talk at one point, in addition to the skeleton and bobsled being up at Lake Placid, hockey would be at the Garden. Is that still on the
So I think that was probably something that was heard because Milano Cortina, there's just been some noise out of Italy about what venues are ready or not.
Right.
And so actually the ski jumps are probably the biggest one that we've been hearing about right now. So I don't have any further information on the rink. But I will say a wonderful concept, and you talk about competitive, would be this concept of on ice in New York City and on snow in Lake Placid. And so bringing these, I think many people don't think of New York City as a Olympics for winter, but when you bridge it with Lake Placid, it is pretty powerful. And so it really brings a number of elements to the Olympic movement that I believe no other location can offer. But Park City was just named, and they rotate. To different Americas and Asia. So we may have to wait our turn, but it's a conversation I think to be had. So, and that really brings.
Regional approach, it's a precedent.
It is, yeah.
Japan, what was it, like 6 hours away?
Yeah, yeah. In Italy, it's 5 to 6
from
hours.
Well, they did it in Paris too, where they had surfing in, it's a French-owned island. Which one is it? Tahiti, was it?
Yeah.
And that wasn't really in the same time zone. It
Yep,
was.
and LA 28's doing that as well. There's a couple of disciplines that are going to be in different locations.
Okay.
Yep. And so I think with Winter Olympics, obviously, climate reliability is really part of the conversation. And so Sapporo is, I believe, top of the list in terms of a climate reliable host in the latest research. But Lake Placid's not far off. And so with snow and snowmaking, obviously, which is part of the New York State investment, we're pretty poised to be able to maintain ourselves for decades to come. But also bridging our two locations, whether it's Olympics or different partnerships, I think is a great next step for our state based on our legacy and the power of New York City.
And you thought this was only going to be about upstate, right?
Yeah. This was the perfect.
That's right.
This was the perfect merger of two groups right here. So we only had 10 minutes, but there's always so much to tell. But if you have any questions, Ashley and I are here to answer them.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Exciting stuff. Anybody have any questions for Darcy or Ashley?
When will you know? Is there a timeline? I know.
Yeah. The sooner the better. Yeah. But we're pushing by end of March to have a message from them. Yep. Yeah.
Just one thing I want to add is that the investment that New York State has put into ORDA over the last several years has been phenomenal. Under Governor Hochul and the previous governor as well. It's been absolutely tremendous. And the upgrades to the snowmaking at all three mountains and Mount Van Hovenberg are bar none. The three mountains, three ORDA mountains were the first mountains to open up in New York State by weeks, especially considering the weather conditions in New York State. There were some mountains that did not even open until after Christmas. We were open at Thanksgiving. Well, the week before Thanksgiving, actually, or 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. I think the 17th of November, actually. So the infrastructure that's been put in place is incredible, and it's actually, the benefits are very, very tangible. And Darcy was talking about season passes, for instance. I believe Bel Air, I think it was 10 years ago, had less than 1,000 season pass holders, and now they're over 10,000.
One thing I might add on this, just I know that Rich, Ross, and I have experienced this. I think Ellie as well. But up in Lake Placid with the bobsled facility, that's something that's open to the public. You might be intimidated because you hear it's the Olympic Training Center, and of course, when Olympians are there and they train, they have to close it just to the Olympians. But if you go and you can make a reservation, you can go on the bobsled, which I did with my family. My husband still holds it against me when his back hurts and they're going, it's because of no. We went together. I mean, it is the most fascinating experience that you can actually sit in those bobsleds and take the same exact course that the Olympics hosted. I don't know if that's the case with other Olympic villages or, but the fact that New York has opened this up for the usage of visitors, it's a big selling point for us when we go overseas and we promote Lake Placid, the fact that they can actually go and experience it. I think it's second to none. It's amazing.
All of our venues are open to the public, so you don't actually need a ticket to actually even just walk the hallways at the Olympic Center. Obviously, a transaction will take place to ride the sky ride or the gondola, that type of thing. So we did track in 2023 to 2020 or 2022 to 2023 over 1 million visits. Those are transactions. Does not count the number of people that are actually just walking the hallways. Doesn't count conferences, that type of thing. And we're actually exceeding that now last year, and we expect to do that in the coming year as well. And so we're seeing the growth regardless, and it really does go with the year-round experiences that we're now providing in that kind of climate-friendly place that we're looking to become. The other thing too, a term that I coined, I guess, is called athlete tourism. There is no other place that you can go and do a gondola ride at the ski jumps and then stop and look up and see athletes training. And so you can have this incredible inspiring vacation, but also you're going to be rubbing elbows with international athletes and actually seeing them compete and train. And so that is actually something that no other place offers.
A lot of the messaging that we've used has been that sort of threefold is attract the professional events. From a B2B standpoint, we're able to handle the different world-class, biking, winter sports. Then there's a spectator, come watch that. And then there's the actual, I'm an athlete, I want to use the same mountain that the Olympic athletes use. I want to go on the bobsled track. I want to go to Mount Van Hoevenberg. Even Mount Van Hoevenberg, I was going to say, if you're not a cross-country skier, just going to that lodge, that facility, it's so nice. Like you can just hang out there. Like the après ski, if you're not a skier, you could go there alone and it's worth a weekend in Lake Placid just going to that one facility. It's amazing.
And Rich, the other thing about Mount Van Hoevenberg is the starter track, where you have the teams from around the world and from the United States practicing their starts for sliding, and it's an amazing thing to watch those people, those athletes, those amazing, incredible athletes at this facility, because it's like the speed and the athleticism is just incredible. I mean, I'm fascinated every time I go there, and as a person that just goes to Mount Van Hoevenberg, you can watch it through the glass.
And the fireplace, right? You're indoors with the fireplace watching. So it's best of both worlds.
Rich is setting.
Right.
And we didn't talk a lot about it, but the Olympic and Paralympic Training Center, world-class athletes, and it's an amazing facility with a huge rehabilitation component to it, and it's incredible to also be in that facility, in that space as well.
Yeah, I wanted to amplify what Darcy said. That I got a tour with my spouse of the ski jump, and it was just the two of us and the tour guide. And the tour guide was a trainee for the Olympic team.
Oh, wow.
And so, as cool as it is to go up on the chairlift, and as cool as it is to see down what somebody has to do when they're at the top, to hear her story about how to make that, like, when was your first jump? How did that work? How did you get over the hump? Was just an amazing experience, and you just sort of take that for granted. What an amazing visitor experience.
One of the attractions we featured in our winter spot was the jumping. Most people are not jumpers, but you can go there with your family, take the elevator up and watch this from, my first time seeing live ski jumping was at the winter, the WUG last year, 2 years ago. And to see that live, it's something, you can see it on TV, but when you see a human flying however many yards off a thing, it's really a cool thing to see live.
And the World Cup events that they're hosting now are just amazing.
Yeah.
This past weekend's aerials was pretty amazing. I'll close with this because I need to, because the word buffalo was only said once. But the bobsled tush push initiative, which was coined by an NBC commentator, is now, we have a wrapped bobsled that we took to Highmark Stadium 3 times for different games. I think it's become a little bit of a lucky charm. And so we've even kind of created this energy around buffalo tush push and bobsled to promote world championships. And so we have this bobsled now kind of on the, that we're using to promote. But anyways, go Bills. So we're all full circle.
Well, that was exciting. Thank you so much. And thank you, of course, Julie and the team at NYC Tourism. Wishing you continued success in your career. Our next meeting is going to take place on Tuesday, March 18th at the Capitol Center in Albany. So for more information, or if you need, we will send it out to you. I just need now a motion to adjourn, which Eleanor is
So
giving
moved.
me. Yes, and seconding Natasha. Okay. And I am supposed to say the time, which is 12:37. So thank you all, and stay warm.
Thank you, everyone.
Meeting.
Go Bills.
It was really nice to